All right, well, it's good to be back. I think I've been out for a month from rules, but nice to be with you. We're going to call the rules meeting to order at 2:02 p.m. on, what's today's date? Wednesday, October 2nd. I'm going to start just by asking for a motion to adopt the new agenda. There's a request to defer item C1 from today's agenda, so we'll just have a motion to adopt the new agenda with the deferral.
Move approval.
Second.
To adopt the new agenda with the deferral.
Okay, thank you.
So, oh, wait, what? Sorry, I thought we were going through the October 8th agenda.
No, we will go through that first. This is about today's.
Why are we deferring?
Sorry,
I rescind my second.
There was a request because of particularly me being in surgery last week and not having early enough notice of the staff workload report, and so we just wanted to have more time to evaluate that before it comes back to the full agenda. Also, I know that Vice Mayor had expressed interest in wanting to participate in the conversation, so we thought we would defer by a week, and staff had recommended deferral this morning at their agenda review. But if we don't, go ahead. I guess your hand's up first. Go ahead, Councilmember.
I think the workload analysis is pretty clear, and so I don't see a reason to defer it. And also, you've been back all week, so I'm pretty sure you've read it.
Councilmember Foley.
To all due respect, Chair, we received the staff's recommendation pretty much the same time you did. We didn't receive it last Wednesday at the meeting. We got it Friday or Monday, whenever it was posted. So I don't see the reason to defer it. We heard the presentation 2 weeks ago. We've sent it to staff for their workload analysis. The workload analysis came back. We should vote yay or nay to move it forward or not today. That's my opinion.
Okay, I will say that based on the staff recommendation this morning, the folks who were on the memo are not here. I can make sure that they get word that if it's not deferred, they should get down here in time for the discussion today.
You're on the memo.
No, I understand. I mean, but out of courtesy, they wanted to be able to be part of the conversation. I want to just make sure that they're aware that it's not being deferred. So if that's the will of the body, then so be it. I guess we don't have a motion to move.
Well, there was a motion. I moved to
you
move
moved.
to defer. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess I can second that. I mean, it might be a moot point with a four-person meeting, but I'll second the motion to defer, and we will, I guess, move to a vote on that.
We need to do a voice vote. It's not encoded in the system. So let's just do a voice vote.
Oh, it's not one of the items on the system. Okay, we'll do a voice vote.
Davis?
No.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Kamei? Absent. Foley?
No.
Cohen?
Aye.
It's a tie.
All right, let's move on to the review of the October 8th council agenda.
So before you do, Chair, can you indicate what that means to the public?
Oh, yeah.
It means that we're not deferring it.
It means that the item's on the agenda, and we'll have that discussion when we get to it. Yes. All right, let's review the agenda for next week's council meeting. It's a 9:30 closed session, a 1:30 regular session, and an evening session at 6 p.m. Consent starts on page 4. Continues on page 5 and 6. We have item 5.1, a airport baggage handling conveyor system services contract. 8.1, preliminary actions for creation of a Monterey Corridor Business Improvement District. Request for an RFP for consultant services for Eastside Alum Rock Urban Village. And we have 3 items on regular land use, items 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4. And all of those, actually 10.2 recommending deferral, 10.3 and 4 not to be heard before 6 p.m. So let's see if we have any members of the public on this.
Blair?
Hi everyone, Blair Beekman. I'm going to be in town for the next month, so I'm here today. Hi. I wanted to speak to item 2.11, which I think is it should be about the future of contracts with high-speed rail issues, I think, and the Diridon Station area. Good luck with these. They're environmental reports and contracts, I think. Good luck with these. You're bringing a lot of people together, a lot of different agencies. And I think in going to the twin side-by-side one-board track was a really interesting idea. People are still wondering if we should do the twin board or not. But with the current modification you made, I think you're trying to address public safety better. You don't say that enough to people in the public space, and we should. A lot of the things with high-speed rail, I just think you should make more clear, and that we're in a process with the whole Bay Area. I know we're fighting for this stuff for San Jose, but I think we have to learn how to bring in the whole Bay Area into the future of this process and how to talk about it. It would be a more engaging and friendly by doing that, I think. I think you get a lot more interest from people. Cindy Chavez spoke at a recent BTA meeting about the Diridon station as Diridon Sports Arena Station for the future of high-speed rail. She used a little clue there that described that you are still thinking about sports arena issues as part of the overall picture, I felt. And to do that is important, to offer things to the public so they can have better understanding. It's important, and we can't fear that, and you guys do fear that, unfortunately. I hope there can be ways to trust, to really be open about things and accountable and fair, and it shares a better...
Back to the committee.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion or any comments?
Move approval of the agenda with the ad sheet.
Second.
Okay, no further comment. Let's vote on that. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, there is an ad sheet, so I assume the maker of the motion.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I
I'm
said,
sorry.
yeah.
I thought I heard, but.
The system is currently down. Let's go ahead and do a voice vote again, please. Davis?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Kamei? Absent? Foley?
Aye.
Cohen?
All right,
Motion passes. Thank you.
thank you. And we are looking forward to a week off on October 15th. We have no agenda to review for that week, so we're moving on to our consent calendar, which has 2 items today. Any public comment?
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman. There are items in the public record of future placements of broadband by Verizon, I think, and it's nice when you guys do that and you put that in the public record. To be working towards our digital, bridging our digital divide future, and not just new technology itself, but how we're going to place that technology, where it's going to be, how the public can be a part of that process. I think that is really key to really define the concepts of positive sustainability and bridging and building the digital divide. It's not just putting in the tech. We have to do the process well. When you do the process well, that's creating our good future. A reminder of that, again, as always. You guys, San Jose actually has done a better job than most other cities in California I've seen, so thank you for that. Good luck on upkeep and wanting to really practice that well. With my remaining time, with the lowrider issue, a lot of interesting lowrider things are coming through in San Jose at this time, and its history, and its good things that it's done. And I'm living in San Diego these days, and I see things, lowrider things, and I think of San Jose. So thank you for it. Thanks for the previous work of Paul Soto, who in some of his last days here used to talk about lowrider things, and hopefully he can come back to the process soon. Yourselves can talk about things and work out things, and thanks for the meeting today.
Back to the committee.
Approval. Second.
All right, there's been a motion and second on the consent calendar. Let's vote.
Davis,
Yes.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Kame absent, Foley,
Aye.
Cohen.
Aye.
That motion passes.
All right, that brings us to item C1. This is a review of a memo from myself, Ortiz, and Torres. I was absent at the meeting. This was discussed before, so I didn't hear public comment on this item. Partly my fault today because we asked for deferral. Staff deferred it this morning. I told advocates on both sides of this issue who had reached out to me that we would not be hearing it today, so we don't have members of the public here to address the issue. I'm still hoping that we can defer to hear from members of the public and allow adjustment. Obviously, I know people don't always read the things in advance. I didn't find out, I didn't start my rehab back to meetings until Monday night. I read this memo and thought, okay, we need to, probably do some adjustment. Didn't have time, to do that. Hope to get it deferred so that we would have some a chance to adjust based on the lengthy and thorough input from from Eric and his team on this. There's a lot of detail in their workload analysis, which I don't think was intended to be part of the policy that in the memo written by the three of us, and we wanted to be able to distill down to what portions of that policy would be more of a scope that is reasonable for the city of San Jose to take on. Our feeling is based on our understanding of the use of the software and the activity of the Department of Justice and others, that there are issues with this software, and following on the lead of other jurisdictions that have taken action to say let's not allow the use of this software in San Jose, in their city. We thought it was a reasonable approach to try to make sure that the deck isn't stacked against renters in our city, which is difficult enough a place to rent. So we wanted that this was our proposal. I know that I didn't prepare my talking points because I thought this was being deferred. I'm hoping that my colleagues are on their way rushing down here because they might have some more input on the policy as well. So my preference, again, to delay and have a conversation and continue to have the meetings that I was hoping to have in the next week with folks on both sides of the issue. And the way I look at it from a policy standpoint, that a lot of the detailed analysis and the work that Eric and the Housing Department have suggested would cause this to be a large workload for the city would be only if we were planning this to be a proactive enforcement policy as opposed to an ordinance that like we have in many cases where we set a standard for the city, but don't always proactively do the work that was being anticipated by the Housing Department. So I would, I know there was a number 2 in the workload analysis document that suggested that we could put in place an ordinance without all of the enforcement mechanism. That would be my preference at this point. I will defer now to public comment, and then we'll come back to committee for discussion.
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you for taking this issue on. This has actually been an issue that's been developing since as long as I've been, here in San Jose. This was important work to Jackie Morales-Ferrand, who was the previous housing director here, and it meant a lot to her that to have this data technology available. But I think over time, her opinion of it started to change a bit. and she was learning new things. We are now at this space, and so just a good luck in what you guys have to do. I don't fully understand these things very well, so I will be on the sidelines just hoping and just listening, and it sounds like you're trying to find a good middle. I'm learning to not really go into the regulations so much, but just that it can be a group decision of what can be best practices that respect our civil rights before continuously giving away our information to be bought and sold. And I know we want to respect that, and that's how Councilperson Cohen very nicely stated it, but it's from that space I hope we can be strong and take real important stands about what can be civil rights and civil protections, and versus the buying and selling of data all the time. So thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right, I will take comment from my colleagues. Let's see, I have to go to the screen. All right, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I reviewed the workload analysis, and I just want to give Eric a chance to talk a little bit about kind of what you put here. It seems like to me, even if we moved it forward with the strategy that you devised, Councilmember Cohen, that we're still asking for policy work from the housing department. And I'd like you, Eric, can you talk a little bit about what the priorities are that your team is working on right now?
Thank you, Councilmember Davis. So Eric Sullivan, Housing Director. So speaking to the work product item, the question presented before us was whether or not this algorithmic tools that are used in software programs can be, if I can summarize briefly, can be regulated in some way. So that way it can limit impacts on tenants. Part of the response recognized sort of two facts. One, these tools are used in software programs. They're rather ubiquitous. RealPage is not the only one. Yardi Software, a whole host of others use this similar types of tools. So that's one. And those tools are used in multiple states throughout the country. I have, in the work that I have done in the past, used software programs that had these tools for those units that we had that were not rent capped. They were just rent restricted, subject to AMIs, and so they set sort of where the market is throughout. So there are some benefits to utilization of the tools. The other part of the question was if we can step into this space and regulate something that the Federal Trade Commission is looking at, there's numerous kind of lawsuits that are ongoing at the federal level for this work, what would be the methodology of the way of regulation? That would be difficult to determine at this point, given that it is probably more of a, I defer to counsel on this, more of an interstate commerce issue, which is why the FTC is stepping into it, and what will be the effectiveness of any regulation, given the ubiquitousness of the tool, as well as what can we as the city of San Jose stepping into the space do effectively for tools that are utilized throughout the country. As well as what the effectiveness of it is. So when we look to other comparable jurisdictions, such as the city of San Francisco, theirs was not a proactive regulation, it was a reactive approach, and effectively empowering tenants and the city attorney's office to take legal action if they are able to take sufficient evidence to court through civil procedure options to consider. So that is a different way to approach the problem. The housing department, I spoke to my colleague Dan in the city of San Francisco, he says they have no action, no material effect, no impact whatsoever on their daily operations under that ordinance. That was essentially providing tenants in the city attorney's office a means of pursuing legal action in the event that evidence is provided that these tools are in work. So the ban was not through any enforcement action. It was, we're banning it, and if someone provides evidence, then you can take civil action. But it was not a proactive requirement on the housing department to take any work. So that was kind of the analysis that we went through as we were looking at this on its first instance and some of the questions we were trying to address.
And if we were to do the same thing as San Francisco has done, that still would take staff time, it would take city attorney staff time, and it would take housing department staff time. What other policies are you working on right now that this would disrupt?
So in terms of the question of whether or not it would take housing department staff time, if we were to go from a proactive to a reactive wait and response similar to San Francisco, housing department staff time likely limited, deferred to city attorney's office, as they would be the carrier of most of that burden. The global question regarding how do we look at ways in which to reduce overall rents within the city is addressed through various items that we've memorialized in our housing element. One is we've got to get to more housing stock, that's without a doubt. Part of the problem here is that our demand for housing units is far below what our supply is. That is both within the affordable space as well as within the market rate space. Two, in the plethora of other work in which we are doing to address and to stabilize families, both in our work around prevention of homelessness, to which we're spending close to $15 million a year on various programs to provide direct rental assistance, as well as our work around the rent stabilization program, as we have brought forth a new strategy, as well as means to preserve those units, to stabilize families. A lot of that work is addressing kind of the needs that are out there and acknowledgement of the higher rents in our lower income families. But they are mitigation factors. The true solution to this is we got to build more housing stock in very simplistic terms.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I just to be clear, when we put something like this out, of course, there's a ton of outreach that the housing department has to do with both the landlords and the tenants. And I just think we have better things for the housing department to do right now. I also think that the city attorneys got their hands full with the housing element and all of those. So I'm not interested in moving this forward because I think it doesn't. Well, I know because it says here that it's not on the department's work plan and that it will require significant resources. And I think it will still require significant resources even with the change that Councilmember Cohen has suggested. So I'm not interested in, honestly, in deferring it and having this conversation again and discussing it another time, because I don't think it's worth going forward with this item.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Foley.
Thank you, Eric, for your answers. I was very concerned about staff's time as well and what will fall away if we proceed in this direction. You didn't allude to the amount of outreach that would be necessary regardless of this. And if we pursue a budget action or a look at the budget, there's still a tremendous amount of effort on staff time. Councilmember Davis asked the majority of my questions, so I will just keep it brief and say that I as well do not support this being deferred. I think that it should be, I understand that if we resolve in a 2-2 vote that it goes to council for a discussion anyway. That's the way it works in rules. It doesn't work that way in other committees, but it does work in rules. So if this is a split decision, then it will go forward for a council discussion. But I would encourage us to be thoughtful about the time that this goes on the agenda when it does.
Councilmember Jimenez.
Yeah, thank you for all the comments. I guess what I was curious about is I didn't get a good indication as to, assuming we wanted to go down the route and do number 2 and do what San Francisco did, model ordinance after what they're doing, how much staff time it would take. So I'd be curious to know what staff's idea is to kick this out, defer it effectively, but to have a better gauge as to attorney staff time as it relates to devising ordinance, because I think a lot of the work, as you alluded to, would fall in the attorney's office. So getting that assessment, I think, is probably a better path forward than, I suspect some folks don't want this to come to the full council, and I think that's sort of a middle road, if you will, to kick it back, getting that analysis, have it come back here to rules, and then we sort of approach it in that way. But I'm not sure if there's...
Thank you. Do you want to weigh in and let us know what your feeling is about that?
Thanks, Chair. I'm trying to figure out how to work the microphone. But yes, just a couple points I wanted to clarify. Our office has opined that the ordinance that was recommended with the memo, which is essentially the San Francisco ordinance, we don't have any legal concerns about that. It is enforceable. We've already opined on that. So, there's no legal concerns about the proposed ordinance as proposed right now. Other options, as Eric mentioned, if we wanted to be more proactive, we would have to look at that. But what was proposed, no legal options, or no legal issues. Our office did not do a workload assessment on this. I think anyone who reads it will see that it would fall on our office. So, it might be a good idea for you to refer it back to us to do a workload assessment because. Obviously it would take attorney time, and we're currently not staffed for this, or I don't think we are, but I probably shouldn't go too far out on a limb on that. And, but we haven't looked at that. We weren't, and this is no criticism anyway, but we weren't a party to the staff response, so our office could look at this issue separately.
Okay, well, with that being said, what I'll do is I'll make a motion to defer it another week or so to have the city attorney's office do a workload analysis as it relates to item 2 of the memo as outlined in the staff's response on the workload analysis related to the San Francisco ordinance.
Do you want 2 weeks, Kevin? I see you.
Yeah.
I see you
the
with your mic on.
holiday comes in there somewhere. Is that,
2 weeks is,
so how about 3 weeks?
3 weeks is fine. 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with 3 weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll make that motion.
Yeah. I'll second the motion. I'm ambivalent about that step in between or bringing it to council and having a discussion. I understand that there's a lot of feelings about this and just having that discussion, but and giving it time and not having it come back in a week, but giving it time so that we have some time to do even outreach from my office to folks to understand how we can craft it in a way that, is beneficial to all and give us a chance to prepare, depending on how I fall at the end of those conversations, appropriate memos about how to do it. But deferring it a few weeks to find out about the workload in the attorney's office also seems reasonable and a good approach. So I'll be happy to support that.
Good, and I'll also just say that there's this issue, it's one of those issues I think that seem very easy and clear to most just at the outset in reading what it is, the algorithmic sort of approach, but I think it's probably likely a little bit more complicated than that, so I haven't personally decided where I'm landing on the issue, but I think full sort of vetting and taking the time to be thoughtful about how we approach it, or even if we approach it, I think is going to be very important. So.
Yeah, and I will say that there's multiple elements to this which I think we have to understand better. The algorithmic approach of rent setting is one element of these software packages that I think we're concerned about as authors of this memo. Doesn't necessarily mean that the software packages don't have value and continue use for for landlords going forward, and how we craft the ordinance about the particular tools within the software package that we're discussing, I think is important, and we ought to be cognizant of that. I will, back to the comments that you made, Eric, and I thank you for being here and for your detailed analysis on this, and your input is always really, on point and sharp. Nothing's a panacea as far as, rent, helping people afford rent in this city, about, getting more housing that we need. This certainly, I never anticipated this was a solution that was going to, solve everybody's problem, or even a sizable fraction of people's problem. It has struck me that there are elements of this software that continue to help to stack the deck against renters, and that we should be aware of that and think about that as a city. But clearly, the priority that you mentioned that I believe in is that we need to build more housing, and you probably know that has been my number one priority, especially in my district in North San Jose. That's why we're having conversations about our North San Jose incentives for housing and things to make it more affordable for people to build and accelerate those thousands and thousands of housing units we want to build. That will continue to be number one on my mind, and I'm sure most of our minds, regardless of this particular piece. But we ought to also be thinking, what can we do in these other tools? But I just wanted to give that input as part of this conversation, but I think, Councilmember Foley, I see your hand up.
Just a clarification of the motion. It is to defer to staff and have staff bring a report back to us in 3 weeks' time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to get the workload analysis from the attorney's
So
office,
they'll
and it'll
essentially
come back to us.
Exactly.
Okay,
So what
great.
we got today, we'd get a different one from the attorney's office?
Right, I just
Yeah,
wanted to,
we'll coordinate with the attorney's office as part of this. I think one of the things that we'll make sure too is if even, one of the things we probably didn't do in this workload analysis, and that's on me to say, even if you guys do want to move forward, what do we need to stop to move forward with that, even if
Right.
it's, very minimal? And so I missed that in this, and so we'll do a better job of kind of highlighting that in addition to coordinating with Kevin and his team.
okay, thank you.
Great. I appreciate everyone's willingness to work on this, and I think seeing no other hands, we'll move to a vote.
Davis? Jimenez?
Yes.
Kame absent. Foley? Cohen?
Aye.
That motion passes.
Thank you. All right, now I think we have somebody here from the Board of Fair Campaign and Political Practices Committee to give us a report about their letter that we will be receiving today as a committee. Welcome.
Thank you, council members, and everyone else for the opportunity to speak today. I am Tom Pavel, the vice chair of the Board of Fair Campaign Political Practices. And for my remarks, I thought I would not try to summarize, repeat what's in the memo, but instead sort of focus on the context. As you know, our board is charged with recommending changes to campaign finance regulations, recommending to the council changes. And for the past 2 or so years that I've been on the board, one of the largest issues that we've worried about and tried to figure out how to address is this issue of dark money expenditures. So the proposal that we've come up with doesn't pretend to solve the problem entirely, but more seeks to take a step to chip away at this problem, hopefully by exposing more of the connections between independent expenditure committees and the sources of their contributions. That would allow the public and the press to better evaluate communications that come from those committees. Now, what we've come up with is not yet a fully formed proposal. There are some specifics that still need to be worked out. And hence, we're sort of asking for your input and guidance on how best to refine this. Now, you may decide just to take this over from us, or you may well ask us to go back and do some more homework. One possibility is to authorize the city attorney's office to do some legal analysis of the different options for disclosures of what we call decision makers in the proposal and make some recommendations. Another possibility might be some sort of process to collect input from a broader group of experts or from the public to narrow down the choices in that way. And then finally, I wanted to say that, we're expecting that this refining of this proposal will take some significant time, and that's why we wanted to sort of bring this forward sooner rather than in our normal biannual cycle, which would be next spring. So that's why we're coming to you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll probably have some questions. I imagine some folks may have questions for you, but let's see if we have any public comment first.
Blair?
This sounds like, Blair Beekman, this sounds like interesting accountability work you're doing for this item. Thank you. Good luck in your efforts with this.
Back to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Davis, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I understand the, where did you go? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you sitting down. I understand wanting to give us time to look at this. I just have a question about whether it was intended to be for all IEs, because the examples that were on here were specifically business-related independent expenditures, and there are labor packs as well, and so it wasn't clear.
Yeah, I think, well, so I think it's probably works best to draft rules that apply to all independent expenditure committees. I did, in the memo, we did talk about focusing on one supporting candidates versus one supporting ballot measures. And I think that's a way to limit the effort. There's also issues about whether they're associated with office holders or candidates directly, but that's a different sort of concern.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The distinction, as I read it, was between office, like executive committee versus decision makers, and that there might be decision makers that are not on the executive committee for the PAC. Is that I don't understand how we're going to get to decision makers versus executive committee. So, and the executive committee is already.
Well, so the current laws require up to 3 principal officers to be disclosed in the form filings. There may be more than 3 folks who qualify as having that control, the primary control over spending, which is the definition of principal officers. Ideally, we'd like to see something where sort of anyone with significant influence, even if they're not officially a member of the committee, would be reported, but that is probably a stretch too far. So as the examples in the memo, those are some ideas of different ways to specify this, but we're not really sure which of those ways are practical and enforceable, and that's why we need some legal analysis on this.
Okay, thank you. I totally understand wanting to know, and I would say as candidates up here, we don't like IEs either. We would rather they just donate to us, so that we aren't associated with messages that aren't under our control. But that's not what the Supreme Court has said is acceptable. So I'm a little bit hesitant. What I guess I think I would propose to my colleagues here is that we give this to the city attorney's office to look at, along with whatever else comes forward, because I know you all meet monthly.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't really think doing this before an election makes sense. I think things happen in the run-up to elections that we find out after the fact we need to also take care of. So, and we generally look at those things as a package. And I swear I'm not trying to just move this off to to the time when I won't be on council and Councilmember Jimenez won't be on council. But I do think it makes sense to look at the whole picture all at once, as opposed to take things piecemeal. So that would be my recommendation for this this particular item. But I'll wait to hear what my colleagues have to say. Let me just
point out that in the memo we talked about that this would be for implementation in 25, applying to the 26 election. Yes.
Yeah, I understand that. I do know also that in the fever that happens between October and November, the press is going to seize on anything we do, and it can cause confusion, and that's my other concern.
Thank you. Before I call on Councilmember Foley, just my understanding is this was more of an informational item as far as the path you're taking and pursuing. Can I ask you the question? There's not a specific recommendation necessarily for us yet in this, as much as you letting us know that you're looking into potential things to bring back to us in the future?
Well, what I said was we're looking for some guidance on how to proceed, right? So either, as we're talking about the city attorney's office, that's one thing that's sort of beyond the scope of our committee to authorize that work, or some other process of collecting input and discussion. So
the discussion we have is valuable to you, but we're not necessarily going to be asked to make a motion or take a vote today. I just want to make that. Well, we could if we decide to give some direction, I suppose, but it's not. There's not a specific recommendation necessarily that has to be taken by this committee. But thank you for that clarification, Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. There's a lot here, and I have a lot of questions. And you had mentioned, Tom, that this is just a piece of what you're looking at. So frankly, I'd like to see it more conclusive than it is today. The recommendation is a discussion and possible action on your recommendation. I have questions about the significant influence that I'm not sure what that means. You had mentioned it's someone who contributes significantly. I don't know what that means. There hasn't been any outreach to anyone in relation to this, either people who represent IECs or candidates or anyone. So I think there's a huge process here that we need to go through, that you need to go through, and then come back to us. If you're looking to guidance, I'm not sure why you're here right now. I would think you could go through the clerk's office direct to council or to the legal counsel. I'm not really sure. Maybe you have to come here first. There has to be a workload analysis from our legal counsel. So I don't see us making a decision today, and certainly anything that we would decide today and pre-election could have an influence in, as Councilmember Davis said, in just the media taking a look at what we're considering. And this no disrespect, it's not ready for prime time. Mm-hmm. It's not ready for us to vet the issue, because the examples given are only related, frankly, to business IECs, and they're not related to others. So I'm a little concerned that there doesn't seem, you're the Fair Political Practice Commission, it doesn't seem that is in your memo to us initially. So I'm going to support, I thought you were making a motion, Councilmember Davis.
I didn't, but feel
okay. So I would move that we refer this to legal counsel for workload analysis, for review of any legal issues that and implications that may be result, and addition to whichever department needs to discuss outreach and public engagement. And that the analysis not come back to us until post-November election.
Do we have a second?
Well,
or
looked
do
like
you want
Kevin
to go ahead? You want
wanted
to
to
weigh in
say
first,
something,
and then
If I may, just a couple points of clarification. Our office does work with the board already. We have an attorney who staffs the board and goes to the meetings. We would continue to do that. The only wrinkle in that is we don't have enough at this point, kind of like you, to really do a legal analysis yet. So I would request maybe that you modify the motion that we'll continue to work with the board, because we would not be able to do a legal analysis or even a workload analysis at this time, because it's
not enough there.
It's not baked, really.
Okay.
And that's not a knock on anybody, but it needs more attention, and we already work with the board, so we're already set up to advise the board. We have an attorney who works with the board on elections issue, and we also work with the clerk's office on election issues as well. Okay, then I would, since I didn't get a second anyway. And I'm sorry, we also would like this, appreciate if this would be after the first of the year, to your point, after the elections. Yeah. So then I will move that we refer this back to the FPPC to work with legal counsel for returning to rules not before January 2025.
I'll heartily second that.
Does that work?
Yep.
Kevin, does that work?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, and I agree. I think there's more work to do before we decide on the next steps. Just to clarify, FCPP, not FPPC. Yes, this is the city. That's the state organization.
Sorry,
No.
FCPP.
Yeah.
You can just say the board.
So we just twisted it around.
Yeah.
Got it.
Can I ask a question about the outreach process that was mentioned?
Hold on. We'll ask you a question if we need to. But Tony, since you're here, can you just clarify a bit about the process? Because this came forward to us. You felt, I probably as a facilitator of this board, working with the attorney's office, that there was some something that we could provide to help this process by bringing this to us, or can you just describe what's before us?
The board voted to, and Megan was at the meeting too, she's here, but the board voted to have us bring it back a sort of off cycle. We typically, in the spring, after the election season, we bring back a list of suggestions, but they voted to bring it to you off cycle.
Okay. So I'll just add my context, my comments to this, which is that while I understand there's some feeling of concern over IEs, and as Councilmember Davis said, we all have some concern over IEs, I'm not convinced that this should be pulled from the normal course of the package that we receive from the board every cycle. It would be make more sense for us as a council to look at things as a package and not try to piecemeal, and also not have to have these discussions throughout the year. So my preference would be to have it come back as part of the broad biannual review that your board does, and then have that discussion. So that's kind of how I would prefer.
Do you want to amend my motion then? I'm happy to.
I don't know if it needs a motion for that, or just, but if you'd like to do that.
Well, because I'm already,
okay.
The motion
Sure.
is to come back
That's
in
right.
January.
Yeah.
I agree that
Bring it, included in the, maybe that would be a better motion, included in the cycle, normal cycle review that you, sure.
That's a very appropriate place for it.
Okay. And, okay, do we got an amended motion? Appreciate it. I see you wanting to make a comment, so I'll ask you if you have an.
No, I just wanted to ask about the outreach portion that was discussed in the motion. I lost track of how that was supposed to proceed.
We can agendize that up for our next BFCPP meeting to discuss.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just say, and I'll call Councilmember Jimenez in a minute, just say one other thing in general, and thank you for being here. I don't have a question for you specifically, but we feel as candidates the growing influence of independent expenditures, and it's due to many factors. One is our own limits that we put on ourselves as a council for our own fundraising. It's the rules that the state puts in place, such as the Levine Act. Every time they make it harder for candidates to raise money, it gives more power to IEs, and I've expressed that many times. Unfortunately, we all tend to react to that in a way to say, let's rein them in, when I'm not convinced that all these actions necessarily rein them in and do the good that we want them to do. So we're frustrated just as the board is, but that doesn't, I haven't yet heard a solution that satisfyingly will solve the issue, and we certainly don't want to make rush decisions about policy based on a few examples that we might not be happy with that have happened in the last few years. So that's the other feedback I'd have. Councilmember Jimenez.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pavel, for being here. Appreciate it. I had a lot of similar questions, and one of the things I landed on was obviously important work, and thank you for all the work to you and the board. But I was also thinking that a lot of that work I was thinking of it in terms of like a committee, if you will, a city committee, where a lot of the work gets done, all the sausage gets made, and then something pops out of the hopper, if you will. And so I was thinking that the board, along the same lines that I mentioned, the board can take up this work, you all have been doing it already. But I think timing it with the biannual sort of update as something that you all recommend for our consideration, I think would be ideal. So I think it's a good place that we've landed. What I was curious about, Tony, is can you remind us when the biannual update comes? Is it relatively soon?
I think there's two different biennial updates. There's the mayor's biennial ethics review. This is separate from that. And we bring back the suggestions from the BFCPP usually in the spring after an election, often summer, because we spend an election cycle kind of gathering fixes for little problems we've put ourselves in through our special rules. Maybe the wording wasn't right. Maybe we can make it more clear. Maybe we've made it too confusing, so we want to revert back. So that usually comes the spring to summer after an election.
Okay, all right, thank you. I was hoping it wouldn't come too soon in order to give them more time to actually do the work. And so I think if it comes sort of towards the end of the fiscal year, that's probably a good time gives you all time to do some of the work and vet this through the city attorney's office that deals with that works with the board, and then it pops up to the new council that's going to be dealing with this. So thank you so much. Appreciate you coming here.
About this.
Thank you. And none of us here have to run for city election in the near future again, so which is also helpful. All right, I think we're ready to move on to a vote.
Davis? Yes. Jimenez?
Yes.
Kami absent. Foley? Aye. Cohen?
Staying on. Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. So now we're on to item C3. This is a memo from Councilmember Batra. I see Councilmember Batra here, so we'll let him introduce the memo, and then we'll continue with the discussion.
Good afternoon. I come before you all today to follow up on a conversation and requested actions from the September 19th FISBIS committee meeting. At the last meeting, the council committee received the quarterly crime statistics report from Acting Police Chief Joseph. It provided a relief and noted that overall crime has reduced across the city recently, thanks to the great efforts of our SJPD officers and city staff. At this hearing, there was a request made by some of the members to have this data disaggregated by individual city council districts. Today, we report the data on a citywide basis and a monthly dashboard which shows on the SJPD. And the demand for, or the request for this district level data was made there, and I'm here to formalize that request that we include this in our work plan for the FISBIS committee. It's my understanding that the SJPD now has a new data technology platform that can easily publish this level of detail without overburdening our police department by taking their work away. The recommended actions in my memo simply formalize this follow-up to the bring a plan and timeline to publish public safety data by council district to the October FISBIS meeting. There are several benefits to us as a city publishing public safety data by council district. First, a public dashboard of crime statistics by council district will save SJPD time from individually different council members requesting some of the data at different times. Secondly, this information can be utilized to empower our committees to make decisions around neighborhoods, watch programs, public information campaigns, and other things which will increase public safety. Thirdly, this information can be a resource to help us attract businesses and residents to San Jose. Our Office of Economic Development, the local realtor committee, can reference these dashboards when helping to convince businesses, tenants, and homeowners to locate in certain neighborhoods through increased safety metrics per neighborhood per district. In summary, local publicized public safety data is a low lift for our SJPD and will have a variety of community benefits. I urge to approve this memo so that the FISBIS committee can later decide how best to approve a timeline and plan to make this public data dashboard possible. You have, along with my memo, at least requests from 3 of the District 10 public members who have supported that such a data will be useful and would be beneficial for their living.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. We may have questions, but let's move on to public first.
Clear.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. This sounds like an interesting item. I've been doing this work for 10 years now. I've been here since 2014 and 15. So this sounds like good work. How you were talking about data collection for the renters issue was also important. Interesting subject, how you talked about it. Thank you. I'm interested how inviting the community more to the process. You're working towards accountability practices. inviting another layer and level of eyes to look through our data. That's nice, and for community to go through the council process, the district process, could be really interesting. I think it's really important to note that in the past 5 years that we made important changes in statistical data reporting and gathering around homeless, around Vision Zero and road death issues. And we've started including homeless people in those statistics, where 5 years ago we weren't doing that, believe it or not. And we made commitments to equity and just human rights beliefs. So we're doing that now. Those raised the numbers of statistics, and that raised the hackle of some within the community who felt our Vision Zero issues were going wrong. We have to really, in learning these new accountability practices with the district, we have to be clear and be sure we are reading our statistics well and we're not using them for our own advantages. We have to be doing this to do things really well, because when we do, that's building the sustainable future, the participatory democracy, the really good stuff. Good luck how we can practice good participatory democracy.
Back to the committee.
All right, thank you so much. I will let the chair of the PISFIS committee, Councilmember Jimenez, start us off.
Yes, I never thought I'd have a chance to grill Mr. Batra, Councilmember Batra in the box, so I have a lot of tough questions. I'm kidding. I was just going to say, obviously, I chair the Public Safety Committee, and you're part of the committee, and so I wanted to just express gratitude and thank you for submitting this. I think, obviously, in all your comments that you make during the course of the committee, it's evident to you, or to us, I should say, and to me specifically, that you care deeply about public safety and making sure your residents, which were at some point my residents, that they remain safe and they feel safe in the community, because I think you share the sentiment that I do, that it's one of the primary responsibilities of the city, and so I very much thank you for this proposal. I think in talking to Lee and staff, it's something that can easily be done, and I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you, why we haven't done it before, but I think it's an important recommendation, and I'm going to be supportive of it. The only thing I would say is that the residents of District 10, District 2, all over the city, if we're breaking it down by, the crime numbers, if you will, by district, they have to be prepared to see a potential decline in crime in the respective districts, right? And so to the extent there's some folks in our respective districts that continuously feel and say that crime's out of control, that the city's burning down, if we're breaking it up per district and it shows that there's a decline, we need to be able to lift that up and say, you feel this way and we respect the way you feel, but this is what the statistics say. And so I think it's going to be important to recognize that going forward, that they're going to have to do that. It's sort of like traffic enforcement, right? They say, we need a new stop sign, we need the motors unit down the street, and then the same folks that ask for it are the ones that are being ticketed, if you will. And so this is sort of the same, not exactly the same thing, but something similar that comes to mind for me. And so just wanted to say thank you, and I'll move approval of the recommendation.
Second.
Thank you, and thank you for those comments. And I like to, it's hard because there is a disconnect, oftentimes, between what the public believes is true and what really is true. And we have to be prepared as council members, not necessarily to, to disagree with the data that's there. And I know there's often an argument that, well, the data is not being, people aren't reporting crime anymore, and that's why the levels are low. But we have to trust our system and encourage people to report, and then actually understand the data we have. The only comment I'll make is that I'll ask the chair of the PISFIS committee and maybe staff as well. There is a quarterly report that PD brings forward to do a status report every quarter. Should this be incorporated in their next quarterly report as opposed to a separate referral to your committee?
So the PISFIS committee does the bi-monthly operations and data reports. I believe we just had that last month, so we would be skipping a month. I do think we can do a special one in October, but I do think moving forward, we obviously break down the data by districts and then beats as part of those presentations on a regular basis. We can absolutely include another slice of the data to show by council districts. I think it'll be really interesting as well, which we can follow as we do redistricting and possibly add a new district with different resource deployment. It'll change some of the data and show some interesting trends as well. But we routinely look at that, so it's easy for us to fold it into that report on a regular basis if the chair would like.
Okay, would like to make a change in the motion or just leave it as it is for, okay. All right, we'll leave it. Okay, we'll work with the chair and make that work. The data obviously exists. The problem is we don't always see it. And I do know that when I work with the captains in my district for our monthly meetings, I ask them to bring forward the data for my district. Some are better at doing that than others. I don't always get the data that I want, but sometimes I do, and it's great when you get that. So be sure also as council representatives in our districts that we ask our captains to bring that data to us when we meet with them so we have it at our disposal and not just the committee. All right, we have a motion and a second.
No, one comment. The good news is that the data platform which the SJPD has, it's now fairly easy to break it down because they have the district information and the ESI overlay and all that. So in the past, it might have been more difficult or more work. Now it's going to be a matter of a few clicks and we can get it.
Right, so this is a matter of just asking for the report. Thank you. Let's move on to a vote.
Davis?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Kame absent. Foley?
Aye.
Cohen?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, we're on to our last action item for today. We're going to let Tony introduce this item. It's a review, proposed revisions to our council expenditure policy.
Good afternoon. The changes proposed for 038 is part of a cleanup and reorganization, and some minor changes, some semi-major changes. I'm going to just highlight a few of them. One is changes to the ticket purchasing. It allows council members to get tickets for when they're presenting ceremonials to an event. It also allows them to bring in, currently it only allows you to bring a spouse or a partner, but because there's different family dynamics, we've opened that to you can bring an immediate family member. For example, if you want to bring like your adult child with you instead of your spouse, you can do that now. You can't do that now, but you can do it under this proposal. It allows for tuition payments for the American Leadership Fellows Program and the San Jose Chamber of Commerce Leadership Cohort. It outlines requirements for staff retreats. It eliminates the $150 cash award to mayor and council employees, which is consistent with city employee recognition policy. That city employee recognition policy used to allow that for city employees. It was removed. That was referenced in 038. Because it was removed for regular city employees, we removed it for council employees. It does maintain the $50 per employee for employee recognition events, although that is not consistent with city employee, the citywide policy. The citywide policy is $35 per employee. We've maintained it at $50 for the city council because that's what it's been for years, and eventually as the cities go, the citywide one goes up for cost of living, they'll eventually come into line. And the other major change is explicitly prohibiting office decorations as an allowable expense.
All right, happy Halloween. Let's see if we have any members of the public on this item.
Blair? Yes. Back to the committee.
Sorry, that wasn't. All right, Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, just a question about that. Was there like a lot of spending on office decorations that required this policy? Like, I'm really confused.
I wouldn't say there's a lot, but it's a question we get a lot. So now it's just more explicit. So some of these are addressing questions that we've had to respond to and get attorney interpretation on over the, sorry, I talk with my hands too much, over the years. So some of it is just clearing up so we don't have to constantly answer that question. And some of it was to align it with broader city policy.
Okay, but that doesn't, we can still buy office furniture, like.
Yes, we're talking more like paintings.
No paintings, people.
Yeah,
no
paintings and throw rugs and whatever.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it, thanks.
Yeah.
This is to move it to the full council, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Will this be on next week's?
I think the 8th.
Is that, I'm just looking to the city manager for, or the assistant city manager for workload. I literally am just trying to remember what we had on the agenda, if it's a packed agenda or not. It's late, right?
It's very late next week, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll move approval.
Yeah, and this was to be referred to the consent calendar.
Oh, for consent,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
As it is, I think we're going to have a long break between our afternoon session and our evening session next week.
Okay, so no dinner.
Well, someone can pull it if they want.
All right.
Okay, I moved it.
I know Kevin, you wanted to weigh in on this?
Thanks, Chair. Just wanted to point out it would need a sunshine waiver as well, because it's going on next week's agenda, less than 10 days.
I'll talk to you after the meeting.
You know,
Well, we've typically, if it's gone to rules, the interpretation from the attorney's office before was that covers sunshine.
okay.
But if you want to change that, you guys can add a sunshine waiver.
Let's add a sunshine waiver in, since I'm sitting in this chair.
Yeah.
I'll just add the sunshine waiver to my motion for clarity's sake.
All right, I guess that's okay with the seconder. Was that?
seconded?
Who said?
I don't think anybody's.
Oh, did it?
Okay,
No
I'll
one seconded it?
second it.
Okay. All right, that slipped through the cracks. Okay, we have a motion and a second now to move this forward to council next week with a sunshine waiver. Let's vote.
Davis,
Yes.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Kame absent, Foley,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
motion passes.
Great. We are now on to open forum.
Blair, followed by James.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. I'll be here through November. I'm going to be traveling to Southeast Asia in November, so yeah, I'm cleaning up here in the Bay Area at this time, cleaning my things, putting my things together. Good luck on issues of dealing with war. War in Israel, war in the Ukraine. If we want to continue war in the Ukraine, that means that we want to be killing Russians, literally. And to go through so much more killing to have what is considered a better negotiation place in the future, a better negotiation position, I don't think that's worth it. I think that's pretty cruel. And I very much worry in that thinking how it's going to affect our own decision making here at the local level. I think we can do the same things with dialogue. You can be just as tough and just as angry at the negotiation table as killing innocent people. So good luck how we can really work towards peace instead of war to solve our issues. I think it can be done. We're just waiting for people to want to better be a part of that. And it's with that, good luck how we can address accountability here at the local level. If we address openness and accountability here at the local level, those are awesome ways to work towards peace, open democracy, give everyone in the world great examples, and really work towards peace and not war. And it becomes a demand, ways to demand to show what better systems can be at work. So with that all said, you're going to be talking about smart kiosk technology possibly this fall at some point. Please try your best to be honest with the public about it. Learn to take the next steps in how to make the process more open and public and accountable. Really try to practice those steps, guys. Please don't lie to us. It's really hurtful when you guys do, and it makes it.
Thank you, Blair.
I'm really not sure if it's actually kind of irritating, the crosstalk during the meeting. I mean, I don't know if that's a thing, but it's like, it's just not, I don't know what you guys are talking about behind the desk, and I just don't think that it's appropriate. Another thing I would like to say, I was completely silenced at the last meeting I attended, and it was partly because when I opened the agenda, it was the wrong one. And it seems like there's some sort of, with the way that the data is accessed on the website, it's somehow just, I mean, on the phone, it's not the easiest. On the computer, I'm not sure. I don't use a computer. And then another thing I wanted to say is I really am disappointed in the lack of community engagement in the community on all sectors of the government. You know, I just think that it's something that's needed. The public needs to be informed of everything that's going on. And also another thing, when I come to meetings, I basically am somewhat confused sometimes. So maybe when I come to meetings, maybe if you'd like maybe give a brief description on the topic that you guys are talking about, that would be helpful, because somebody who just comes into a public meeting, they may not know, you know. I'm entered in participating in the government at a very interesting time, and it's like I'm going to be getting more involved. Homelessness is a huge issue, and I am homeless myself, and I've created a survey, and I'm going to be going out in the community and getting what the community feels on homelessness, you know, and I'm going to be doing that soon, so hopefully it'll, you know, eventually solve some problems, because I feel like homelessness is just going to get worse, and we don't want homelessness.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Oh, was that the last one? Thank you
That's
for
the
your
last one.
comments. We are adjourned at 3:12 p.m.